All right, so let's get into another video here. It's been a minute. This one's going to be more of a behind the scenes how to write code. Not so much an explainer for signs per se, or explaining a project like I do. Just want to say appreciate. I'm up to 93 subscribers. I know some of the people personally, appreciate that, but a lot of you, wow, we've got a lot of people from around the world, and they're hitting me up and saying they like it. So I thought maybe somebody would like to see some real inside baseball on this. I need to crack open one of my macros. I know I did this in a video maybe a couple of years ago already. It's been, time flies already, 2 years, but so I'm gonna crack into this old macro I wrote. So I'm in the middle of this project. We'll go over this at some point, but right now I'm just showing you it's pretty complicated. There's a lot of things going on with it. So it kind of forced me to break open a macro that I wrote 4 or 5 years ago. And it's kind of funny when I remember that I have a macro that I needed. And so I wrote it for one thing and then, put it away and I didn't touch it. And then something like this comes along and it's like, oh yeah, I have that. So I go and I, not literally dust it off, but figuratively dust it off. But then it's kind of funny because it's just crusty in my, I've like come so far and I'm like, wow, who wrote this? So let's get into it. I need to, for this job, I need to bring it up and throw some more features on it. So that way it can help me with this beast right here. So we'll go over all of it. So pop some popcorn, might take a little while. Also, I'm just going to do this all in one take, and my screen capture only does one screen at a time. And so I don't want to get into editing and stuff because, I just need to get this updated so I can get back to work tomorrow. It's basically just a tool. So I need to bust this open. I'm just going to make a video for you guys, but then, I'm just going to keep this fast and quick. So bear with me, but I'm just going to, we're just going to do it live. Like, Bill O'Reilly says. So, this is the macro here that's called Numberator. This thing's, and you can see where I hastily made this thing. So I remember that Numberator was actually just this top part. And what it is a quick way to put numbers and, labels and things. So you can see how there's numbers here. So ultimately, all of this stuff is going to become a giant Lego set. It's going to be Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow, model that's going to have hundreds of pieces, at least dozens of pieces. So I need to be able to engrave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to engrave all these pieces onto the metal, these numbers. That way they can keep track. But today, so I kind of dusted this thing off and I was able to make these letters, and I'll show you that. But then I realized that all of the rest of this is going to need, labeling. And so usually what I'll do is I'll keep the numbers for the middle parts. That's why these are lined up here. But then I'll switch to letters or a combination of both depending on how many parts. So towards the end of the day today at work, I'm like, you know what? I'm probably going to want to make this outside border. It's like all these pieces are going to become extrusion at some point, and I'm going to switch to letters. And so the whole function of this thing is to make these, quickly lay these out. So for those playing along at home who don't know, if you're going to do a number, first of all, you have to go over here like an animal and click that. And then you type 1 and there's your 1. Then you click over here and there's your 2 and you go like that. And you go like that and then repeat. So, and my default is Arial. So a real quick thing for those not familiar, the difference between using a STENCIL font and this Arial is if I go to like wireframe here, you can see where, the router bit, when it engraves, just like on the back of your iPhone or something, when you put your name on something, I'm going to engrave these numbers on each piece. That way it's easy to go. Now, the router bit's going to follow this. It's going to use the computer program on the CNC and it's going to follow this. The problem with stuff that has an inside, like let's say if I would have taken it, yeah, there's number 4. I did it. So the router bit's going to follow this the first time, and then it's going to want to go on the outside or something like that. It can cause problems for certain things. So that's why it's easier to use a STENCIL font. This is literally, that's what this is. It's STENCIL font. I'll go back to, so if you click on this guy here, I have them grouped, but you can see up here on the top, the drag down for all the different things. But STENCIL, even though, yes, it's for spray paint and Banksy and whatnot and, Public Enemy, but you can see where the outside is separate. So that way it's conveniently like that. So now there aren't any sort of inside shapes like this 4 has the inside shape, that's going to cause problems and it has to be dealt with separately. So it's more work for the router guy and all that. So, or the router person, whoever it is. So you can see where right off the bat, this is why I came up with this thing to begin with, because I don't even remember the project, but I had this same thing happen. It was a big project and I started to have to label things. And so here I was going like, one and, two. So that's no way to live. That's no way to live. So then this gave birth to my stencil machine. So what I did is I just hotwired a stencil QWERTY keyboard where if I just push these things like that, I get just, here's all the letters right here and it's already done. I can also do this with the numbers right there. There's that one and there's that one. But here I am having to do each one of these by hand and then I have to distribute them. That's the other thing is I have to distribute it. So it's a lot of work. So the Numberator started out just at the top here. I did one number to, let's say I want to do 10. So it's like dealing cards. If I hit this button, it's just going to put them all out at once. Now that saves me that step. That's all it's doing is saving me this step of going 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, right there, that's great. I mean, it pays for itself. And you can tell, like I say, I wrote this so fast. It was really down and dirty and ugly. Like I say, I can't even select the size. If you look up top here, I usually keep these at 1.5 inches and it's like a 4-inch up here. So, I didn't know what I was doing. The reason why I keep this, I like 1.5 inches for any of my engraving because it's a nice balance. The end mill, I don't use some sort of like engraving bit or anything. I don't have time. So the same bit that's making this whole circle, I don't want to do a bit change for the machine. So this is big enough for it to kind of go around that and it doesn't turn into a blob. Anything smaller and the bit makes it into a blob and you can't tell what it is. If you start going bigger than 1.5 inches, you start wasting time on travel. It's inches per minute. So, time is money. So the longer it takes to make all this. So if you go too crazy with all your stenciling, then you're costing money that way. So it's a balance between, of course, you got to identify everything because imagine this nightmare. Imagine a bunch of just silver aluminum pieces get dumped on your table and you're like, go for it. So you got to label all this stuff, but it's a balance. So that's what I'm doing here. Now, the second thing I did later, and you can see where this is like off center and I just drug it down and made a box and made a button. So in order to align these things, later I learned how to read the nodes on a line segment like this. So if I take this and I drag, each of these nodes is going to be now where I'm going to put a number. And this is where it's a little more advanced. I was kind of impressed when I came up with this myself back in the day. Now, if I take my node tool, if you look down on the bottom left, it says curve 8 nodes down at the bottom. That means I have 8 nodes. That means when I click the bottom button, it's going to put 1 through 8 on each node. And then it's going to get rid of the actual shape. So that's a way to distribute each of these numbers. Now, I cracked this open yesterday because it was doing Arial font because I didn't know how to do it. So I just did Arial font, but I need stencil. So yesterday I cracked it open and kind of modified a little bit. But then today, like I said, I realized I have a lot of parts. And so I need to switch over to to letters because in order to not get confusing, so I have this right now, I have the verticals at the numbers. But now I'm going to go around here. I can't use numbers as well. It could get confusing. So that's when I'll switch over to letters. But my little Numberator here doesn't have any provisions for that. So that's what we're going to do. I want to put provisions to switch to letters, but that's going to be interesting for computer code. How do you tell a computer that doesn't know what a number or a letter is? All it knows is ones and zeros. How am I going to make it switch from numbers to letters? Also, I want to be able to adjust the font. Even though I like 1.5 inches, sometimes it's necessary to do 2, sometimes it's 3. Like I say, I don't work in points. I work 1-to-1. Everything I do goes right to the router. So I don't worry about points. I convert all points to inches and I worry about actual height. So I know this 7 is going to be, actually 1.5 inches on the router-ish. It says 1.5 inches, but when you route it, it's more like 1 inch something. But anyway, so let's get into it. So again, bear with me. I'm going to be dragging my, my editor over. Let's see. So I do have it cracked open. And come on. There we go. So let's make it fit. I had it all this set up. I promise I did. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I go over here to the top left and I'm going to find it. And it's like I said, I made this thing so fast back in the day, I didn't even name it properly. So it's just Userform number 24 because you can see all the ones that are real deal. These are all the ones, they all have names. So like there's my Go Time launcher. There's my info words. I know all these, so, because I took time to actually make them. So, I was really hurried when I just called it the next Userform number 24. And you can see how ugly it is. So if I click on here, I'm going to click on the box so you can see there's the code for it. So we're going to kind of modify this a little bit. So on the way home, I was thinking about how to do this. And so that's why I was like, you know what, if I'm going to do it anyway at home, I'm just going to turn the camera on, whatever, and record it. So just along for the ride. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a switch. I'm going to make a checkbox and I'm going to put it right here. Now that checkbox is going to be, is it numbers or letters? So I'm going to drag it. It's just that easy. I'm going to drag it right over there. And we're going to go ahead and change the caption from checkbox one. And then I'm going to go ahead and do, let's just do alpha. Letters. Why not? Capitals? Yeah, that's fine. All right, so letter. So if this is checked on, which will be a value of true, then we'll go ahead and set that up for, it'll change it to letters. The other thing is I want some sort of a drop-down menu. I want a little box that will allow me to change the size. When I push this button, it'll be the size of the font that I want. Yeah, it rhymes. So I'm going to do, so you have a choice. You can do a text box, but that means you type just one thing and that's it. And because I'm in open warfare on actual typing, yes, I could type. So you want what's called a combo box. A combo box will do both. It'll do, you can actually input, or it's going to give you a drop-down menu. And I like that because it's all the usual suspects. I don't want to have to type. If I want 2, 3, 4, 5, I'll just go to a drop-down menu and access it that way. So I'm going to drag and drop that right there. And I know that it doesn't need to be that big because it's only going to be, 1, 2, 3, or 4 or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and put that right there. And we can kind of spruce this up a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I still like this, but we'll kind of get that up out of the way. And this is going to be kind of its own thing here. Now, it's still kind of messy, but, whatever. So we can kind of bring this over a little bit. So that'll be, turn this on for letters. Otherwise, it's going to default to numbers. So make numbers on nodes. So make, make IDs. No? What do we want to do? Let's just say make things on nodes. There you go. All right, cool. So now what we need to do is update the code. So we go in here, and this is horrible writing as well. It's great for me. And again, it comes into the whole thing. I've already talked about this before, but there is no right or wrong way. It's just better and best way and good and fair. Since nobody else is going to read my code, sometimes I can't even, then I don't really have a lot of notes and things. But technically, this isn't really how you should write it because it doesn't, it doesn't convey any information, especially if somebody else is going to be reading it, then you want to make it easy to read. So, but for me, whatever. But I am going to put a note here. So you put a little single quotation, and that means that the computer doesn't read it. When it sees a single quotation like that, it ignores it. So I'm going to put a note that this is the font size. Okay, so when I cracked it open yesterday, I added the 1.5 here, and I added the fact that you can see where I'll highlight there stencil and the font size. This wasn't there before. So those are the only things I really, oh, and then I did the outline. I like the red outline fill, no fill, red outline. That's how I like my engraving things. So in order to switch this to engraving, I went ahead and added these features yesterday. But the rest of this is right as it was, 5-6 years ago when I wrote this. So the font size, we'll work on that in a minute. So this is where we need to set up a logic gate, as they call it. So as this thing is running down the track, your train's running down the track. Right now, it's a single track. I push a button and the train goes from point A to point B. There's only one track, left to right, whatever. So now that we're going to go ahead and put a, oops, we're going to go back to the object. So now that we have this button, you have a true or false, which means on or off. Now we've added a gate. So now we need to put that into the code. You can do an if-then statement. So if the button's positive or true, then this, then that. You can do that. I think for this, though, we're going to do a select case. So you go select case, and that's at the beginning. So just like the train. So you go select case true. And then we're going to, at the bottom here, we're going to go end select. So what we've done is we've made a whole separate switch in the track. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make two separate tracks here. So again, this is where indentation helps, which I haven't done very well. So now you say case, which means this is the first case. So the computer comes down, it says select case true, and the computer goes, okay. And then the first case is like, is this true? So we need to know which ComboBox that is. So real quick, we will go back to the object. I'm just going to select it. Or no, I'm sorry, the checkbox. So it's checkbox 1 because there's only one checkbox. Makes sense. Story checks out. So where do we go? There it is. All right. So select case true. So we're going to say case checkbox 1 or me. Sorry, me, because it's talking about itself. And then checkbox 1. And then dot value. Oh, you know, I have this backwards. Let's see. There you go. See, this is the fun part. Trying to remember this stuff. It's been a minute since I had to do this. And then we're going to do false. Oops. Long day. All right. Okay, so now we have select case me.checkbox value. So it's going to basically read the thing. And if it's true, it's going to do this. And if it's false, then it's going to do this. So what I'm going to do just to get things going is I'm going to go ahead and grab this and copy paste this into this. Now, basically, this is the exact same thing now, but I have now two complete tracks. So if I hit a button, the train's going to complete its journey. It's just that it's going to be the same thing for both. So now I need to augment how do I switch from going from letters to numbers. So, and this is going to be the fun part. This is kind of like, oh, I was thinking about this on the way home and I'm like, oh, so this is why I thought it'd be cool to show. So the challenge is I have numbers here, and how do I get the computer to switch from numbers to letters when a computer doesn't know either one? A computer, basically, what we're going to be looking at here is the ASCII the ASCII chart. So let's see. So you've got the ASCII chart. So you got the decimals here, and then you've got the binary. So you've got 0 to 127, which is basically 128. The 0 counts as 1. Weird, I know, computers. So 0 to 128, 1 to 128, whatever, 0 to 127. This is the basics of the beginning of like the language for the computer. So let's take a look. So decimal is a thing that we understand as humans. The computer wants to look at ones and zeros. Binary digits, which are, that's the shortened term is bits. That's what bit stands for, is a binary digit. So a computer does not know what an A is. It doesn't know what a 2 is. It doesn't know what a 5 is. It doesn't know any of these things. You have to tell it with ones and zeros. That's the only thing it understands. So I'm telling it that I've got 1s and 2s and 3s here, right? I've got 1s and 2s and 3s, but how do I tell a computer that doesn't even know what an A is or a 3? How am I going to tell it that and switch back and forth? So we got to use some tricky code. So the way this works is it's every one of these nodes, it's putting that node into a collection and then adding those numbers up. So like I said before, if I select this, and you can see where each of these, I'm turning them blue, these nodes, this whole thing selected has 7 nodes. So when we go back into the code, you can see where right here it says CCC, convert to curves, and it says NNR, this nodes all. And then now that's where it's getting its count. So this thing knows 1 through 7, and that's how it knows to put letters or the numbers up 1 through 7. And it also knows that that's the number, right? So if you see BBB here, I just say B. So B is 1, so position 1, and BBB will be number 1 right here. And then as it cycles through, it'll be number 2, and it puts a number 2 up, and it puts up a number 3, and it puts up a number 4, until it goes through the count of all of the nodes. So the more nodes I have, the more numbers, and it's just going to keep going. So you can see where I have 1, see right here, I have 1 through 12. It took, I made a little line like this, and I made 1, 2, 3, 4, and so it counted. So in the code itself, that number, or the letter, this counter thing right here, this BBB was basically 1 through 12, because the NNR count was 12 on that one. So now we're going to take that and switch using the binary thing here. We're going to go ahead and switch over to letters by using the numbers. Yeah, I know. So let's look at the ASCII chart here. And the ASCII chart here, we want the letter A, B, C, D, E. If you'll see all the way over here, so if the way this works is, let's say you want space. So the computer, the space bar, reads, if you look at decimal over here, like 32, decimal 32, binary 0000, that's the space bar. So if you tell the computer space, then that's 000, but we know that's 32. So you look over here, this is where the alphabet starts. And this is uppercase, and you can see over here on the left, on the very right chart over here, like the lowercase a is way over here. So if we want an uppercase A, it's all the way over here, 65, decimal number 65. The computer sees that as 0100000000. So I can zoom in. There you go. Duh. I told you this is real time. So follow along. Sorry about that. So anyway, so decimal 65 will get us an A. Let's go to the end of the alphabet, and we're going to go all the way to 90Z. So I need to convert somehow the node count, right? I got the node count, which is BBB. Right now it's numbers, easy. 1 to node count, and it just puts the numbers up. But now how do I convert that over to binary decimal, and just with the click of a button? So it's not that hard. You just have to kind of think it through. So if we have a 1, but we need to get to 65, then if we know we have a 1, then if you basically take 1 minus 65 is 64, that's the secret. So we just need to augment our count by 64, and then that will get us, a 1 will then be a 65. You add a 64 to 2 and you'll get to a 66. You add a 10 to a 64, or to 64, and you're going to get 74. You add a 11 to it and you're going to get a 75, which will be a K. And so we will iterate from 65 here. We'll iterate through and get us to 90. And then we're going to have to write a little stop. So that way we don't keep going, because what if I have more than 26 nodes and our BBBB is, this number right here, the BBB is bigger, and we go blowing past 90, and now we start putting up brackets and we start putting up carets, and and we can continue over here and we'll start getting asterisks and whatnot. So I just want to iterate through 65 through 90, and that will switch us over. So I kind of thought about it on the way home, and like I say, I'm going to go ahead and get cracking on it so that way you guys know what's up. So case false, we'll leave that alone. Right now, if the little checkbox is false, then we've already got it. That's already done. So case true. I'm going to go ahead and hit debug right now, see what's the problem. Ooh, cool. Let's see. So case true, we got our active shape, convert to curves. So we need to, so what you do is you type, in order to switch over to this ASCII stuff, is in VBA, it's CR8 or CHR character, and then parens. And then the character code, what they're asking for is that ASCII. So with this little function, as it's called, if I type 65 right there, I will get an A. So this little function is telling the computer that I want a character 65 as an A. So that's what we're going to do. So I think it should be as simple as this. The computer will do math on the fly. So what we're going to do is add the character thing here, right? So character BBB, and we're just going to do BBB, and then we're going to go plus, right? 64. And that should get us started right where we need to be as far as that should drop us right in there. So now our character count will be 1, 2, 3, 4 because the computer doesn't know ABC here. It still has to count nodes by numbers. So it has to take all those nodes into account, add them up, and now BBB will be the same, except we're going to add 64 to it, and this little function is going to switch it over to a letter. So I think it could be that simple. So I'm going to go through this, apply no fill. That should all be next BBB, C delete, case false stays the same, and then we end select. So that should all be good there. I'm going to go ahead and debug up here at the top. That's what you do. You hit compile, and if it's grayed out, then it's compiled. Then good for you. Nothing's wrong. It'll stop and yell at you if something's wrong. So as long as it checks out. So font size, we'll get to that in a second. But right now, so I'd like to try it out, see if it works. Kind of scary. So what we'll do is just hit run up here, hit the little plus, and here it pops up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab this. And see, I can't do anything anymore without these things. It's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, it's just Control C. No, it's over here. I have to hit copy. I'm going to put this on a fresh sheet so I don't mess anything up. That's because this one's a real deal right here. I'm going to go ahead and save and close it. We're doing it live, people. Bear with me. It's a big file. There's a lot of parts. Okay, so let's go ahead and just see here real quick. I'm going to do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Might as well just go for it. So I'm selecting here. It's showing 10 nodes. So if I duplicate this, so let's do this one with numbers. Yep. And then this one should theoretically do with letters. Click this. That's true. Select case true. Yeah, look at that. Just like that. There's our letters. Cool. That's it. Why do you make it look so easy? Yeah, it is once you figure it out. Anyway, so we got this here. So now what I want to do though is I want to make a quick safety. Really, normally this is how I do it. I just get it done and then I'm done. I move on because these are just tools to get stuff done. But I'd like to make sure that I don't accidentally start doing more. So I'm going to go down here to select case true. And now we need to put a stop. And before it cycles, next BB, before it enters this, I'm going to ask it, I'm going to put another logic gate right here. So I'm going to add a little tiny track within one of the tracks here. And I'm going to do an if statement that I'm going to have it check to see what BBB is. And I'm going to say if BBB equals, what do we want? 26. Yeah, if BBB equals 27, or let's just do greater than, if BB is greater than 26, that way we're covered. Then we'll just do exit sub. But that means we're just done. We're going to exit. So that way this keeps the node count from being higher than 26. That way I don't start getting brackets and weird stuff. So, you know, there's only 26 letters, obviously. So once it reaches 27, then we don't want a 91. We are 65 through 90, and that's gonna handle it. So, oh, this is case false. So you got to pay attention. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that. We're up here. This is up here, baby. There we go. So, see, I heard you guys screaming at the screen, going, "You're in the wrong spot." All right. And again, you would note this. You'd say, "What is that for?" You know, if anyone else is going to read your code, you'd make a nice little note right there and stuff. All right. So we have that set. And so that way, if it's higher than 27, if there's more than 26 nodes, then it's not going to go any further and it's just going to exit. Now that will be annoying if somebody who didn't know what was going on, they'd be like, why is it's broken? Why is it not acting right? I just know. So if I try to do more than that and it just stops, then I'll go, oh, okay. And then I'll have to deal, like, maybe I'll start doing double letters, or I have to go like A1, A2, which I could write code for that as well. You see right here, we could make this, change it, and we could make it go like a letter and a number or something like that. All kinds of options we could try. So, but for right now, I just need to get that done. So now the second thing is I want to make the font adjustable, right? So remember this combo box. Now, in order to fill a combo box, like there isn't a list right now to pull this down. You have to fill this with code. You have to write code. Thankfully, I have other things, and I'm just going to grab off of other stuff that I have. So numbers letters, that's what I'm looking for. Numbers letters, that guy. See right here, I have a little combo box already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this and I'm going to rob this code, because this already selects a stencil size and I like this. So there's no need to, rewrite history there. So I'm going to go to the code and I'm going to find the initialize. So basically when this thing fires up, so you see up here on the top, it says Userform up here and it says initialize. So when this thing fires up, it does this. It fires up this little, it loads everything. And so I'm going to go ahead and just grab all this right like that. And I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go back to Userform 24, super generic. And then I'm just going to go to code and I'm going to go up here to Userform initialize. There it is. And you can see it's empty because I don't have anything in there yet. And if I'm just going to paste this in, look at that. And what's very convenient is that the other one, the combo box, is 1. And this one's combo box 1. So I don't even really need to, talk about being lazy. So copy paste just like that. I'm plagiarizing my own code, but that's what it's there for. All right, so let's give this thing a run. Boom. And as you can see, my favorite number default 1.5. So now it's going to be inches. So one thing we didn't do though, now we need to connect this to this code. So right now this is loaded and stuff. So I have there's my drop-down menu of all my font sizes that I like, my usual suspects, if you will. And again, you don't hear any keyboard clicking because I don't need to type anything. So we need to hook this to this. So it needs to read this value and translate that. So right now it's default to 1.5. So let's get back in there real quick. Let's see. Let's see, where are we? Yep, here it is. So remember, I have NB is a variable. That's kind of what you want to get used to is don't go putting 1.5 here. set up a variable here, and then all you have to do is change the value, and then it changes everything all through here. So it's really good to use variables. You can hard code it, or you can use variables. I used to hard code because that's all I really knew. So everything was very rigid. But then what stinks is when you have tons and tons of lines of code, and if you have to change one thing, then you have to go through every line and change it. Versus, using variables like that. And if I change it here, then it changes it everywhere, and that's awesome. So, younger self, listen to older self. So we have MB equals, and we're just going to get rid of 1.5 inch. And we're just going to tell it me dot ComboBox 1 dot value. Now, this right here is a double, and that's what we're going to leave it at. That little hash mark right there means it's a number type, but that's fine. It'll figure it out. It's pretty smart that way. So now you can see where NB equals ComboBox value, and then here it says MB, so it's just going to switch that over. And again, the default interior computer language that Corel speaks is points. So you have to convert points over to inches. So if I want to work in inches, I have to multiply everything by 72, because 72 points equals 1 inch. So I have to take the value of the ComboBox, multiply it by 72, and then it comes out onto the screen as 1.5 inches. So a little bit of math there, but there's no way to go in and like under the hood. Corel is hardwired for points in its programming. So we should be good to go there. So I think let's do a debug. See, it says compile. Looks like it compiled really quickly. We'll hit save, make sure it's saving, because we have to do all this over. And let's hit run. It's up here. I'm going to hit run. All right. So let's try it. Like I say, I'm doing it live here. No editing. So let's make a couple of testers here. All right. So this one, let's do letters, and we're going to let's do 1.5 inches. Well, let's make sure it's working. Let's do 2. There you go. And let's check it. There's letter. And up here at the top, it says 2 inch stencil. Good to go. Let's switch it over to numbers, and let's make number 4. And these are much bigger, and they're numbers. Looks like it's working. That's what we want. So as you can see, this is what I'm going to need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you real quick as we wrap up. This is all I wanted to do. I appreciate you hanging in. So I'm going to drag this down. And so you can see where, and this is what's cool about what I'm doing with all this stuff, other than like I bring these in from McMaster Car, you can see my other video. But everything you see here, everything, all of these lines, every one of these, even these circles, all of this stuff is 100% push button. I did not draw any of this. All of this stuff appears with a push of a button. So that's how valuable this is to me. And this is why it's important for me to have these. I break them open. I can make them even better. Now you can see how quicker I'm going to be, how much faster I'm going to be. So again, all of this, not one of these things was like a drag and drop. I use my rectangular to make my rectangles. I have my dog bone machine to make dog bones. I go ahead and, all of these things, but especially like these things with the blue line here, all of this stuff, any circle like this, I push a button, it's made. So again, all of this is super important, but you can see how quick it is to get all this stuff done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag out these jigs here, these magenta pieces. So I call these my jiggies, getting jiggy with it. So what I could do is, call summon. I summon my suit here. I don't need rectangular. So let's grab send it, and send it will go and find things that are named. So that's really important that I name everything. So I'm going to go ahead and select all this, and I'm going to hit Jiggy right here, and it's magenta, and it's going to dig out all the jiggies. And I'm going to go ahead and bring those here. And that's how I'm able to dig those out of all of that. So pretty good. So now this is what I'm saying though. Each of these is going to become a C channel. Like you can see here, it's going to become a C channel extrusion. Oh, ungrouped everything. But you can see where that's the 2-inch and this is going to be 6 and that's going to be 2. And we're going to send that to the router and get bent up. So each of these is the side profile of that. And this is what I need to quickly, name. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to test this in real life here. We thank you for your service there. Send it. Get out of the way. So I'm going to grab this and I'm just going to hit let's just hit the center. I'm going to hit the center. I'm going to hit the center. I'm going to hit the center. Center. There you go. Just like that. And you know what? We're going to end it. There you go. So now we got that many. So let's see how many nodes we got. 16 nodes. So that's okay. We're within 26. And I want these to be letters. So we have this here. I'm going to hit the button. We want to do 1.5 inches. And that's all I wanted to do today right there. So that's going to make that real easy. Or let's say these parts are ready to go and they are already, like this here. I'm going to go ahead and cap that. Extrusions, we're going to say that's 6 inches wide and we're going to make it go to the left. There's that part right there. And so that's this piece here. There's that extrusion. And there's going to be another one. So we're going to have all of these like that, like that, like that, and like that. So there's 6. And so this is what I can do now. I can go like that. I can go like that. So there's 6 nodes. Double check down here. Oh, we got 7. So I might have, yep. So you got to be careful. Sometimes it's really sensitive when you drop nodes. So I got 6 pieces. I got 6 nodes. And so now I'm just going to use my new tool. Now let's make them numbers. There you go. They're ready to go. Send them right out. All right. So that's it. Appreciate you. I know it's a long one, but for those who are kind of interested in this, but again, coming up, I'll be explaining all this when it's time to do it. But anyway, that's the power of macros. And, if this helps you, fine. Everyone's like, hey, don't show them the code because then they can do, hey, I had to learn from other people. If it's pay it forward, whatever it is. If you can figure out how to do this using my stuff, I appreciate that. Go ahead. Feel free. Otherwise, hit me up if you have any questions. Check the